Hey, everybody, welcome back in. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle talking about the fantasy relevant picks here in the 2020 NFL Draft. Brian Drake alongside Dwain McFarland. And we just had another quarterback off the board, Dwain. It is Justin Herbert going to the Los Angeles Chargers. I was worried there for a second. I was going to say San Diego, but we got Herbert going to the Chargers. Now, Phillip Rivers has moved on. He was there forever. He is now an Indianapolis Colt. And now we've got the big man from Oregon, 6'6", coming to LA. I like him. I'm unsure of him. If you look at some of his weaknesses, Dwain, scouts say he doesn't lead by example. He's not or he leads by example, not a very commanding presence. Disappointing impact as a passer over his last few games. Kind of mechanical. Not great touch on the football. This isn't really what I want to hear. It's somebody taking 6 overall, but he's got the big prototype body, and they need somebody in LA with a boatload of weapons.
Yeah, man. It's one of these deals where we'll see in 5 years. I don't claim to be like an expert, on quarterbacks, but from what I read from the people that I trust, there's a clear drop off from the other two quarterbacks that have been drafted right to Herbert. Matt Waldman compares him to Carson Wentz as an upside kind of deal. And so, Wentz has his moments. And the thing that you look at with Herbert, that if you look at, his accuracy, that's really what bothers me, the most when I look at that. If you look at his, according to Pro Football Focus, if you look at it by depth, of target in the 0 to 9 range, he completed 96 of 131. He had the 82nd passer rating, in college football. That's pretty low in that range. In the 10 to 19 yards, he got slightly better, but he just really wasn't that great, at being able to, show accuracy consistently. He probably has the biggest arm in the draft. So I think that's where some people see the upside. He's a big guy, 6'6", 236 pounds. You hear the comparisons, to Josh Allen based on some of that. Probably not as athletic as Josh Allen as a runner, but can add some to the game. Overall, though, when I look at it, if you think about what the Chargers are doing, it kind of makes you feel bad for Phillip Rivers. Imagine if the Chargers had ever gone and gotten Brian Bulaga and Trey Turner, in the time that, Phillip Rivers was there and never really had an offensive line. So they are trying to put things around him. Overall, I think this is bad for Keenan Allen. This is bad for Mike Williams. This is bad for Hunter Henry. But that already happened, right? When Phillip Rivers left, we knew this was going to be bad. It was either going to be Tyrod Taylor or a rookie quarterback, unless for some reason, one of these other guys, they traded up to get one of the other two guys. So I think overall, all of their fantasy values take a hit. I think, you're going to see, a guy like Hunter Henry maybe stays a little more stable, a guy, working inside a big target, but a timing guy like Keenan Allen that's really good at creating separation out of his breaks and things like that. I think that's going to hurt him. Mike Williams, maybe, that brings some, positive to his game. Maybe if Herbert's willing, to take, more shots downfield, but overall, I think it pulls the whole offense down. I think it takes all of those guys down a little bit. Now, again, that doesn't mean that, they're just undraftable or anything. I just think that it's clear that they're going to be a little bit less, impactful for fantasy, purposes than, having Phillip Rivers.
Austin Eckler with his second round ADP. Do you like him still there in that spot, or not as much with Herbert coming into the fold?
Well, I think this hurts some because, if you're playing with a rookie quarterback, odds are, you're going to be, playing from behind quite a bit, which is going to keep you passing in the fourth quarter, which gives you less chances to score touchdowns rushing. But really, Eckler's, there to score touchdowns through the air anyway. Justin Jackson's probably the guy that's going to, see a little bit more work from inside the 5 or inside the 10, or who knows, they may draft somebody else, later in this draft to handle that workload. So I think overall the offense is just going to be a little bit, less effective, which I think brings down the ceiling from a touchdown standpoint. And I think the accuracy is going to bring down a little bit of the upside from a reception standpoint all the way around. For Austin Eckler, I'll have to think about it a little bit more, Drake. But right now, I'm a little bit leery, of Eckler, in the second round. But, volume is still king. The thing we know with Rivers is he had great chemistry. He had great touch underneath. He knew how to work with Eckler. He knew how to work underneath to Keenan Allen. We just talked about, Justin Herbert and where he struggled. A lot of it was in that 0 to 9 yard range where he's going to be targeting these guys. Now, again, it doesn't mean the guy can't get better or that we know everything about his game. People surprise us all the time. Remember when Cam Newton wasn't any good and was never going to be able to throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey until all of a sudden he did, So, and Christian McCaffrey became great, out of the backfield catching passes from Cam Newton. So these things can change. We can change our opinions on things pretty quickly, but just overall, the biggest thing I see is it's a decent drop from the other two quarterbacks down to this one. And you're probably going to see more growing pains, which is going to ultimately hurt the offense.
This is a team that is loaded when you look at their starters. If they can stay healthy, especially on the defensive side of the ball, with Bosa and Linval Joseph, Melvin Ingram, and the great secondary with Derwin James and Casey Hayward, this is a team that, if they can put some points on the board, can contend for a playoff spot in a very tough division. So we'll see what happens out there. Wouldn't shock me at all if the coaching staff got a little conservative, even started Tyrod Taylor the first couple of games of the season just to try to get this team off on the right foot. But that's Justin Herbert. This is the Fantasy Football Hustle. We're going to be bringing you every fantasy relevant draft pick that comes off the board. Brian Drake, Dwain McFarland. Follow us on Twitter and subscribe, of course, on this YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. Just click that little button right down there that says subscribe. We'll be seeing you back here momentarily. Thanks, folks.